Chapter 21. You know, I'm beginning to grow numb to this kind of situation. Naruto told himself with a deadpan expression. He was standing in a great expansion of nothingness. The last thing he remembered was going to sleep. At first glance, he was back to Satella's seal, but upon further inspection, this wasn't the seal, nor was Satella here, not that that stopped him from looking for her. He knew Satella was in a better place than this, so, naturally, his instincts were telling him this was a place to be wary of, not that he would, since this was obviously a vivid dream, right? Satella? Where are you? He called for her name for the 100th time as he searched for her in this seemingly endless place. He was beginning to grow bored of just darkness all around him. How much time had passed since he fell asleep? He stopped searching when a silhouette wearing a white dress appeared in front of him while he was looking around. As far as he knew, Satella wore black clothes, not white, although they both had silver hair and had literally the same body. That couldn't be Satella, since he knew her energy signature, so that left the only other person he knew with such specific characteristics. Emilia? Emilia turned around to face him, surprised, and sprinted to hug him. Her arms wrapped around his neck, embracing the blonde. He was very confused at the moment, but he hugged her back anyway. His azure eyes narrowed when he felt her abnormally cold body. This was, for all interest and purposes, Emilia, but he was pretty confident something was off, like, for example, she was in this dark void and appeared out of literally nowhere. I was so lonely, Naruto. You just went back to your home and left me behind. Emilia's gentle voice spoke to him as she pulled away from the embrace, staring at him with cold, dead eyes. What are you talking about? I never left you behind. He stopped talking when Emilia laughed. It was a chilling, hollow sound. No need to explain. I'm not angry. Your face is so pale. Emilia said with a giggle, or at least trying to imitate one. It's okay, Naruto. I'm happy you came back for me. I was lonely, and I thought about crying, but, like all other times, you came back to me. Hey, what's wrong? Naruto felt a chilling sensation grow on his chest when he held in his arms what could be confused as a puppet of the real Emilia. Her eyes held no warmth and her tone reminded him of the emotionless sigh. Come on, snap out of it. As long as I have you. I don't need anything else. Don't worry about me. He he he. Emilia laughed softly as she looked at him with no small amounts of madness. I love you, Naruto. Naruto opened his eyes to see a dark roof. He took a deep breath and calmed himself before he looked at his side to confirm that she was still with him. He was rewarded with the image of a sleeping Emilia. Her hair was a mess and she was drooling on his arm, but she felt right, if that made any sense. He took another deep breath. She was okay, he had nothing to worry about, nothing. He was very aware that he was dreaming at that moment, but that laugh and that look spooked him to the core. That nightmare was worryingly realistic. He knew he was a very sentimental person, or so he was told, but to see Emilia, the woman he loved in that sickly state, even in a dream, was very shocking to him. He felt his throat completely dry, so he sat at the edge of his bed, careful not to wake Emilia, and took the glass of water he normally had at his nightstand, just in case he had the same situation. Once he was finished calming down, he ran his hand through his face. He was a little sweaty, probably from that nightmare. Naruto? The blonde dropped his head in defeat and chuckled at his girlfriend. He should have known she'd wake up. She was a light sleeper. He looked behind him to see a now awake Emilia. Her eyes were barely open. Hey, sorry I woke you up. That's okay. Why are you awake? Another nightmare? Emilia asked with a concerned expression. These days it was almost normal for him to wake up in the middle of the night after a nightmare. Yeah, but it was just another bad dream, that's it. He knew that he should have accepted that he was trapped in this dimension till further notice, but he couldn't help but be concerned for his friends on the other side. He tried to be mature about it and trust that they could take care of themselves, but he knew that, at the bottom of his heart, he was concerned for those he left behind. He was ignoring this more and more, but it seemed that the stress was accumulating and now he was experiencing nightmares. His tense shoulders relaxed when he felt her wrap her arms around him. Do you want to talk about it? No, it's nothing important, just some random images my brain came up with. He said while he kissed her hand to assure her he was fine. She wasn't convinced. She was smarter than that, and he knew it, but she decided to drop the matter and just be with him. Several minutes later, they finally decided to go back to sleep. Emilia pulled Naruto closer to her and rested her head on the crook of his neck. She pulled the large blanket over both of them. When the room grew quiet, she began to ponder something before she began to sing. A small boy. You've wandered into this forest, but you're unable to see these giant wings. She sang him a lullaby. He could feel her embarrassment at her own actions, so he decided not to comment. Those round little cheeks don't know anything. She continued. Sleep now, sleep. Come rest in a quiet waterside. Your dreams will be carried upon a dragon's back to disappear beyond the mountains. Naruto felt her magic react to her singing and enhanced it. Apparently, she was unaware that she had this power because Emilia just continued to sing without a care. Emilia sang Naruto a whole lullaby until he finally fell asleep peacefully, letting her magic soothe his mind. She smiled and kissed his forehead. Sweet dreams, Naruto. She said before she fell asleep too, all the while remembering her own weird dream. What is this place? Emilia looked around in a panic when she woke up in the middle of a completely white room. She distinctly remembered falling asleep with Naruto in their room, not in the middle of literal nothingness. Her eyelids began to feel heavy when the atmosphere of this room finally hit her. It was like being in a warm blanket on a winter day. It was relaxing. She was tempted to once again fall asleep, that was until she heard a loud voice. Hello! She spun around when two people appeared behind her. She immediately had two magic circles in her hands, ready to skewer whoever tried to attack her. She was surprised when she saw two humans, a man and a woman, looking at her with smiles. Hello? Emilia replied unsure, feeling wary of them. The blonde man was dressed in a white cloak and had spiky hair. She immediately noted that he lacked his two arms, and the red-haired woman wore a green dress with a white sleeveless blouse underneath. Are you Naruto's girlfriend? The red-haired woman asked gently. Emilia blinked her eyes several times. What an odd thing to ask. Yes. How do you know Naruto? She asked as the woman squealed and basically teleported in front of her. The red-haired woman released the brightest smile the half-elf had ever seen in someone other than Naruto. We're his parents. My name is Kushina Uzumaki, and this is my husband, Minato Namikaze. Kushina introduced herself and Minato. We've been watching our son's life and his interactions with you. Thank you for taking care of him. Minato said with a bow. You're his parents. He told me about you too. Oh. You're very welcome. Oh sorry. Emilia bowed to Naruto's parents politely and respectfully. It's a pleasure. My name is Emilia. She sounded nervous. She was before her boyfriend's parents after all. Oh my, she sure is a polite one, isn't she? Kushina said, still wearing the same smile as she lets go of Emilia's hand. It's nice to meet Naruto's girlfriend finally. I see that my son told you about us. Yes, Naruto told me about you too. I'm sure you would be proud of the kind of man he is. Minato and Kushina shared an amused smile, if only she knew. I'm so happy he handled himself well. I know that I told him to find himself a girlfriend, but honestly, you blew away my expectations. I should thank you for that. Hearing her kind words, Emilia felt happy, but her smile wavered when she remembered something. But, are you two okay with this? She asked nervously, causing Kushina and Minato to be confused. Something wrong, Emilia? Minato asked. I'm not sure if you two heard about me. I am half-elf. You see. After Emilia explained to the two the prejudice that came from being from such a race, they were sad to find out that she experienced something very similar to their son. But even then. What? Why you're okay with that? Are you sure? Even then they accepted her with open minds. Listen, Emilia. It doesn't matter what you are or what people think of you. The only thing that matters is that you have people who believe in you and care about you, and more importantly, you have the one that loves you. Minato said with a gentle smile. It seemed that Emilia thought that they would mind her race. He couldn't hold it against her though. She didn't know that ninja were more preoccupied with killing one another than judging each other by their race or appearance. That was depressing, but hopefully, things changed after the war. Emilia couldn't help but feel happy that his parents weren't like the humans in her world. Thank you, Mr. Namikaze. She said with a relieved sigh, gaining an amused chuckle from Minato at her honorific. She felt at peace when they talked about the things she and Naruto had done through the months they've known each other. The hours flew by and they didn't even notice until Kushina and Minato began to disappear. Why you're leaving? Emilia looked a little sad, wanting them to stay here and meet their son, Naruto. We had to leave since the beginning. We are already taking more time than we requested for. Minato said. Emilia, don't give up on your dreams and hopes. One day you'll look back proudly to your accomplishments. I won't give up. It was nice meeting you, Miss Uzumaki. The half-elf saw Kushina open her arms wide, offering her a hug. She embraced the woman without hesitation, wrapping her arms around her waist. Please take care of Naruto for me. Make him happy, so he doesn't feel alone again. I love you, Emilia. Kushina said with a heartwarming smile, making Emilia widen her eyes. Emilia's eyes widened at Kushina's words and felt a rising surge of happiness from within her heart. Tears began to well up in her eyes, and she felt pure joy. This feeling she had. Is this how it feels like hugging a mother? When she opened her eyes, an empty pillow was the first thing she saw. Hey, sorry I woke you up. That's okay. Why are you awake, another nightmare? The next morning, Emilia opened her amethyst eyes when the sun shined down on her closed eyelids. She slowly raised her head and looked at the sleepy blonde. He was hugging her waist and his head was buried in her belly. She smiled and giggled at the position. It wasn't the first time she found herself in a weird position with him when they were waking up. The memories from last night were slowly coming back to her, and she had to admit that was one of the best dreams she's ever had. They were both very kind people, he clearly got it from them. She used her hand to brush Naruto's blonde bangs from his forehead and leaned in to kiss him on the forehead. She yawned. Naruto wasn't a morning person, so he wasn't going to get up from bed for about another hour, so she laid back on the bed with Naruto. She wasn't a morning person either. It took exactly 1 hour for Naruto to open his azure eyes. A pair of amethyst eyes greeted him immediately. Good morning. Emilia said softly as her hand stroked his cheek. How are you feeling? Naruto pushed himself up into a sitting position. I feel fine. He said with a smile on his face. Thank you, Emilia. I'm just glad you're all right. She said with a small giggle. Emilia smiled at Naruto as she leaned in forward to kiss him on the forehead, pulling away from him after she did, but his arm snaked around her waist to stop her. She couldn't help but hug him back. I thought you said you felt fine, but your actions say otherwise. Do you want me to hug you again? Was that not enough? She asked, her tone playful. I guess that would be nice. Naruto said, giving her a thumb up. Emilia wrapped her arms around his neck and pulled him down to reach his lips for a kiss. He buried his head in her chest and Emilia wrapped her arms around his head with a smile on her face. By the way, I didn't know you could sing. Where did you learn it? Naruto asked. Well, I'm terrible at singing, but my Aunt Fortuna sang me a lullaby when I went to the bed as a child, so I practiced her lullaby. Emilia said. Really? That's impressive. I'm afraid I'll need you to sing again when He really liked her singing the first time. It was very soothing. Of course, Naruto. Anything for you. Shall we get up and greet everyone? She asked. That'll be a good idea. Let's go, Naruto. Yes. Naruto, I am so sorry. Ha 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 ha. You looked hella funny. Emilia's face was red with embarrassment, and Garfield laughed hard. Naruto's face was covered with flour and an unfinished pancake was blocking his vision. It seemed that Emilia had very little to no cooking skills, so she flung a pancake across the room when she was mixing the ingredients. Why were they cooking with others? Well, apparently it was a nice way to form bonds with others, or so he was told. Let me clean your face. Emilia said as she cleaned her boyfriend's face with a towel. He found himself thanking the heavens for the twins, the only people that could cook in the entire mansion, aside from other maids and butlers. He was currently learning how to cook anything besides instant ramen, if boiling water and adding it to a cup was considered cooking. If you go slow, you can mix it very well. Rem said once he was clean. Yes, I can see that. Naruto said with dull eyes. His nose had flour too, making it difficult to breathe. Emilia-sama, you should watch us too. You need to learn how to cook. She looked at the silver-haired girl, who nodded and joined them. Naruto noted that, similar to Emilia, Wilhelm was having trouble mixing his pancakes, something he had said was his weakness. Seeing as the simple recipe was too simple, he didn't bother leaning it and actually never learned how to make them. Fortunately, Reinhard was there too, and while the Sword Saint was having as much trouble, they had each other to help. It was very nice seeing Wilhelm and Reinhard AC like they are family. Wilhelm tried to thank him for it, but he, of course, declined his thanks and said that the only thing he had done was to plant the idea in their heads that maybe the past was not worth fighting for, and that the two had formed a bond of their own free will. He seemed to appreciate the gesture since he said nothing more after that. He smiled at their interactions until a sickly strong smell of alcohol hit his nose, almost making him barf. This was just as bad as Jiraiya's smell after he was dragged out of a brothel. It isn't so easy, honored father. Don't think that your relationship will be fixed with just that. That touching moment was spoiled in the worst way when a red-haired figure threw open the door of the tea room. The face of the red-haired man who'd spoken those words carried so much malice that everyone froze on the spot, or in Naruto's case, scowl. His behavior and attitude all betrayed an ugly nature. A rather repulsive smile spread across his unshaven face. He looked to be in his 40s and carried the unpleasant scent of alcohol about him. "Who the fuck are you?" Garfield asked as he eyed the redhead who came to stink the room with his repulsive smell. The red-haired man scowled at the blonde kid. "What's with the ugly look, kid? Hey, Sword Saint. Or Jaculius, or even Argyle. Cut down this rude kid for me," he said as he pointed at Garfield, making the kid get up from his seat, ready to just transform the man into nothing more than a red stain in the walls. Garfield gritted his teeth and was about to attack him when Frederica stopped him as she grabbed his arm. He turned to his sister, and she shook her head a no. He took a deep breath and relaxed his posture, remembering his lessons. He couldn't let his emotions be as apparent when facing smug bastards like this one. Ferris is present, Reinhardt and Naruto as well. It was Julius's turn to speak, who had stood up at some point, gently placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder from behind. The knight nodded slightly at blonde shinobi, then turned to face the man. "We three are on temporary leave from our normal duties due to serving our specific masters. Therefore, even the deputy head should not hold the right to command us." "Yep. Fairy-chan is now an obedient servant to the venerable Crush-sama. Therefore, I have no obligation to comply with the order." Ferris spoke to the red-haired man as he offered an immediate follow-up to Julius's words. Naruto, intrigued, tapped his finger on Julius' shoulder, and the knight turned around to face him. "Who is that?" Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. "That's Heinkel van Astria. He's Reinhardt's father and Wilhelm's son," Julius said, as if telling a secret. Naruto widened his eyes slightly in shock as he looked at the drunk man. This alcoholic man is the father of Reinhardt and the son of Wilhelm. This absolutely disgusting person was related to two of the most righteous people he knew. How? While he was looking at Wilhelm with an apologetic expression, Heinkel's eyes caught his form and he pointed at him like some sort of disrespectful child, his arrogant face transforming into a scowl. "I heard of you, you little shit. You took away my father's victory over the Hakugi. Who do you think you are to prevent my father from avenging my mother?" Heinkel scowled at the blonde shinobi. Naruto looked at him like he was seeing an annoying brat and directed his look towards Wilhelm. The poor man was actually covering his face with his gloved hands, ashamed. He said the man's name as if it was some sort of burden. "What do you want, Heinkel? Just calling me once is fine. I've yet to lose my hearing from old age." "Well, treat that as nonsense and ignore it." More importantly, Heinkel responded to Wilhelm's bitter voice by sticking a finger into his ear as he closed his blue eyes, clearly unaffected by his disappointment. Then, he opened them to look at Wilhelm and Naruto. This brat didn't deserve to kill Hakugi. He stole your victory, but now you respect him like some sort of slave. Naruto didn't kill Hakugi because he was looking for glory. Rem said, almost yelling at Heinkel as she stood next to Naruto and defended him from his glare. "He killed it because of the lives it has taken, including your mother's. If it weren't for him, I'm sure a lot more mothers and fathers would have died." Naruto gently placed a hand on Rem's shoulder. He appreciated her gesture, but it seemed that her words were wasted on someone like this man. "I had no choice but to steal your father's victory. I killed Hakugi to protect my comrades before anyone could get hurt. I'm not that type of person who would abandon others just because they want the kill for themselves." He was having a very heated glaring contest with the man in front of him, their blue eyes attempting to glare holes in the other's head. Heinkel, who had been scratching his head, was shaken by Naruto's momentum. When he stared into the boy's eyes, it was clear he was facing a warrior. He wasn't the most brave person in the world, so their determination actually scared him. He looked at his son, Reinhard. "With this, father has finally avenged the previous sword saint who you murdered, isn't that right?" he asked. Previous sword saint? Naruto thought out loud as he looked at Reinhard. "The murderer of the previous sword saint." Heinkel continued. "Although I don't know exactly how ignorant you are, you have to be familiar with the title of sword saint, right? Our current sword saint is the most powerful hero of our day, but that was something he got from murdering his predecessor, his own grandmother. Although that fact was immediately hidden from public knowledge. Silence, Heinkel. Just how far are you intending to go? Wilhelm yelled at Heinkel, filled with anger as his fists clenched tightly. If you want to say something that sounds nice, then please stop, father. The reason is nothing other than that you simply don't have the right to disagree with me. After all, when the last sword saint died, the first to condemn Reinhardt was none other than you. Heinkel's words contained a dense, noxious poison of abhorrence. And the contents of his speech were no more than vulgar curses toward his family members. Is it hard to communicate now? Of course, it is. It's been this way for 14 years. Neither you nor my father have changed at all. Without change, you can't reconcile. Would Theoresia van Astria forgive such a selfish affair? My dead mother is cursing us. 3 generations, and none of us have been forgiven. Someone who never became sword saint has no right making fun of one who has. The voice was sharp and serious. Everyone turned to Naruto, who spoke out as his gaze locked on Heinkel. What did you say, kid? Heinkel asked, his hand dangerously close to his sword. But more than anything, Naruto vanished in a flash and appeared inside Heinkel's guard, stopping him from drawing his sword. How dare you talk like that toward your own flesh and blood? When the man threw a punch, he now had a reason to fight back. Naturally, Emilia would look bad if he attacked someone just because his emotions were out of control, so the man had to throw the first punch, so he could claim self-defense. He punched him in the face and a loud crack was heard by everyone in the room. His punch sent the redhead rolling on the ground, the impact having stolen the air out of his lungs and his nose was now bloody. Wilhelm was shocked when he saw his friend punch his son for insulting Reinhard. That was a surprise to see. Heinkel stopped rolling when a wall stopped him painfully. His angry eyes stared at the boy, who punched him in the face. You little brat. How dare you? His hand flew to the hilt of his sword but grasped nothing but air. He saw his opponent looking down at him with his sword in hand, as if to mock him. A new set of footsteps sent everyone on edge. Enough of this. You'll waste your life if you fight him. It was Priscilla Bariel speaking, one of the candidates of the royal election. So is this it? Frozen faces in a lifeless environment. Do you like this stale air so much? Or is it that every time we meet, such an atmosphere forms? If so, that's incredibly pitiful. She frowned as she looked throughout the room and spoke in a provocative tone while fanning her face. It wasn't too long to have her recognizing everyone, but it seemed she only had eyes for the blonde man dressed in civilian attire. The man who killed Sin Archbishop Sloth, Hakugai, and Usagi. Rumors were surrounding this young man lately. Priscilla approached him, an extra sway to her hips. I have heard that you defeated the Sin Archbishop of Sloth, Hakugai, and Usagi. It seems I was right about you since the first day we met. You're a powerful knight. She said, but it turned out to be disappointing when she saw him and the silver-haired witch together. Emilia was looking at her through narrowed eyes, her hand was holding him in a way that told her that he was off limits. Princess, I think it'll be best not to take him away. He's already Emilia-sama's knight. That was Ael's voice as he came into the hotel and stood beside Priscilla. Hey there, brother. It's been a while since our last meeting in the royal selection. Hey, Al. I never thought I would see you again, not in Pristella. Naruto said as he and Al both shook their hands. Yeah, man. Honestly, I had the same thought. Oh, I almost forgot. Congratulations for becoming Emilia-sama's knight. I think you will do a fine job to protect her life. Al said with a thumbs up. Thanks, Al. You're a little late, Priscilla-sama. How long were you going to make me act alone? I heard that you were supposed to be coming earlier. Heinkel interrupted him as he walked toward Priscilla, still wary of Naruto, who had his sword in hand. Silence, commoner. You will dance as ordered to. Until I give the order to stop, you are expected to dance until you die. Those who misunderstand their duties or attempt to correct a mistake they believe I made are condemned to death. Priscilla said as she watched the red-haired man rub his jaw after he got punched by Naruto. Also, commoner. That's really embarrassing for letting a young man punch you. Are you really an Astria? Heinkel clenched his teeth and looked away from his employer, embarrassed. As Heinkel sulked, Naruto raised his gaze and walked over to Al. So, this man right there. Is he one of yours? He whispered. Yeah, a couple of months ago he came in contact with her, and ever since he's been with us. Al said with a sigh. Naruto crossed his arms and nodded to Al. Well, he could rest without a care knowing there was more than one witness that saw Heikel throwing the first punch. But, why in the world would Priscilla let him join her camp? After Naruto finished chatting with everyone, he left the hotel with Amelia, Beatrice, and Remington. He was going to bring Garfield and Frederica along, but they had something they needed to do. I see. We're going to see Liliana masquerade. I heard she's a singer who has the divine protection of telepathy. Rem said, remembering the children told her that they wanted to meet her. Oh, yes. She's amazing. I think it's pretty cool that she uses her gift to entertain others. Amelia said, yesterday they caught the end of her song and Amelia loved it. I'm excited to see her. Ram said with a smile. The children spoke wonders of her. Indeed, I can't hold my excitement. Amelia said with a smile. They walked through the beautiful city until they reached a particularly crowded area. Wow, so many people. Ram said amazed, looking at the crowd here to see Liliana. They arrived at their destination, the entrance to the park. The fountain located at the center of the city's park showed an unexpected spectacle. The audience gathered in the park was larger than yesterday where clone Naruto and Amelia found her. Is it just me or is the audience larger than yesterday? Naruto wondered, seeing the crowd gathered, however, that thought turned out to be just a mere worry. Today's performance seemed upbeat, with both rallies and applause from fanatical listeners, an atmosphere that dominated the park. Oh my! So many clapping and yelling. She must be very famous. Rem said. Everyone seems to be enjoying themselves. She really deserves to be called the songstress. Amelia was eager to push through the hustle and bustle to have a good look. When she's pushed through the audience, Naruto yelled for her to stop, but it seemed she was determined, that or she couldn't listen. Naruto began to push through the crowd but stopped for a second when his instinct screamed at him. He felt an uneasy sense of danger, like a thunder strike on his back. His eyes turned dark for a few seconds, they were sharp and serious, no longer his normal self. He wondered why he had that feeling? Perhaps Regulus was watching him. No, that couldn't be it, it felt different. Maybe, I should check it out later. Naruto thought as he pushed through the crowd. When he finally found himself in front of the crowd, he frowned as he identified a familiar woman in a red dress. That was a really amazing dance. After seeing this extraordinary dance I started to lose myself. It was Liliana Masquerade, the singer. She's a brown-skinned girl with bright yellow hair tied in two tails and big round eyes of the same color. She wore revealing clothes, an orange cape, and decorates her hair and body with ornaments that use nuts and animal bones. Not at all, your performance and singing were what captured my attention so completely. Just as it deserved to. It's been a long time since I've seen such a display of skill. Priscilla said. When Liliana turned around to her audience, she noticed the people with blonde spiky hair, silver hair, and cream hair. Oh, hey! If it isn't Uzumaki-sama and Amelia-sama. And Uzumaki-sama's little girl Sama. Oh, a new face with a maid uniform. She called their names and looked at Rem with wonder in her eyes. My name is Remington. She said as she bowed before her. You dance for the masses? I'm surprised that you could do that. Naruto said honestly, looking at Priscilla as he crossed his arms and noticed she didn't have someone to look out for her. Are you alone? Al isn't with you. I allowed Schultz to go for a walk, but he seems to have gotten lost. He tries very hard, but he's good for nothing at everything he does, that's the cute kind of child he is. Since Al's constant nagging is annoying, I sent him out to look for Schultz. As for the damn bastard, I am unsure, but he's really pissed for what you did to him. If I'm correct about his location, he's at a tavern somewhere, drinking his shame away. He sighed in relief when she said that the redhead wasn't with her, their first meeting had left a bitter taste in his mouth. He wondered if Priscilla was safe in this crowd without any guards. Moreover, that feeling of danger had only grown since he felt it and it was beginning to bother him. Naruto, where are you going? There's something I need to do, I'll be back in 5 or 10 minutes. Amelia blinked her eyes in confusion, but she nodded anyway. Okay, Naruto. Be careful. She said before she got a gentle kiss on her knuckles from Naruto. Priscilla watched the whole interaction between Naruto and Amelia. Say, tell me about you and Naruto. She said as Amelia turned and looked at her. What was that? You and Uzumaki. It somehow made me feel disgusted to see you together with him. I don't quite understand why he would join a half-witch's camp. Just because he's strong, that doesn't mean you can command him whenever you want. Priscilla said. Naruto isn't a tool or whatever you think of him. Emilia said gently. She had to be patient and respectful. This was a noble and a fellow candidate. He serves me of his own free will. Besides, I'm sure you wouldn't be able to recruit him, like he said you wanted to. You have shown him nothing but arrogance and disrespect. He's not the kind of person that would ally himself with someone like you. Priscilla was taken aback by Emilia's words, not expecting her to just insult her like that. No, that girl in the ceremony wouldn't have done so, but this Emilia was different, changed. She looked with interest on her stoic face. Was this Uzumaki's influence? The girl she knew could barely talk in front of an audience, nor was she confident enough to be in public without the use of a hood, so this was surely due to his influence. In seconds, that expression disappeared and Priscilla turned away from her and focused on Liliana. She unfolded her red fan to cover her face. Her eyes were still staring at the half-elf, not turning her head to Emilia, but vigilant all the same. You're lucky to have him. Priscilla mumbled quietly, looking at the drastic changes this girl has had in just some months with her knight. Emilia heard her mumbling. Did you say something? She asked, not looking at her. It's nothing. It's none of your business. She said. This visit to the park had proven to be very interesting. Garfield was walking through the pristine roads of Pristella, on his way to meet Garrick Thompson, his stepfather. His feelings toward the man were bittersweet, really. He had nothing but respect and gratitude for the man who not only saved his mother, but also loved her and gave her children, his brother and sister, but at the same time, as a son, he couldn't help but be jealous. His mother loved a man more than she loved him, her flesh and blood. Although he wanted nothing more than for their mother to be happy, he couldn't help but resent her for losing her memories. He resented her for forgetting them. He felt abandoned but relieved. He felt very happy but also very jealous. He didn't know how to feel. So, he was heading toward the man to finally sort out his feelings. Since Garfield knows that his stepfather is Pristella's metropolitan director, the location where he works should be near now. When he arrived at the building, his jaw dropped. This was ridiculous. Why was this building so big? Am I even in the right place? Garfield wondered, remembering what his mom told him about her husband. Holy shit! Am I supposed to find him in this ridiculous building? This is bullshit. He sighed. He wasn't going to run away from this. He was about to enter the building when the coppery scent of blood reached his nose. He focused and found no noises being made in such a big building. His jade eyes scanned around the area in the front gate, no guards. He rapidly entered the building, and the first thing that greeted him were corpses everywhere he saw. He was about to look for his stepfather when his inhuman senses caught the sound of a pair of footsteps rapidly approaching his position. He immediately leaped from his position on the stairs, which were destroyed a second later. The dust forced him to jump farther away from the stairs. Two shadows peered at him from the remains of the beautifully crafted stairs, and he froze for a second. One of them was a giant of a man, leisurely holding a large sword in each hand. The other was a slender, delicate woman, holding a long sword in her grip. Both were wearing black headdresses, and Garfield was unable to confirm their identity. Who are you two? Garfield asked, already channeling magic. He waited for them to answer him, but neither responded to Garfield's words. The two he was facing seemed to be dreary, ominous ghosts. They were strong, really strong, and he was alone to fight them. He needed backup, although that was easier said than done. There was no way they would just let him go away. Garfield hated doing this to himself. His pride was screaming at him to fight, but he had to retreat and report to Naruto. I should tell the captain about this, but those two won't let me escape. When they were about to leap at each other, a sonic boom forced the figures to scatter. Garfield looked behind him to see a cute child. Mimi followed you here. We have to run, she said. What was Mimi doing here? Garfield took the opportunity to flee immediately and took Mimi in his arms. He saw the flash of steel at the corner of his eye and activated his right shield, blocking the attack of the agile woman. He used the block to his advantage and almost shattered her skull with a shield bash to the head, sending her flying back. The woman wasn't the one who worried him, it was the man. If he somehow caught up to him, he was done. The man was clearly a tank, just as he was, so while they fought, the woman would use that to her advantage and worn him down with hit-and-run tactics. It was a simple tactic, but that didn't make it less useful. He jumped from a window, protecting Mimi with his body. When they touched the floor, he immediately sprinted to get away from the carnage as fast as possible. This was bad. Those were clearly the uniforms of the witch cult. Emilia and Rem had very detailed descriptions of them. Naruto smiled at the new present he brought from the store. He didn't seem to find the disturbance anywhere, but that didn't stop him from buying a nice gift from the beautiful city for Emilia. He continued searching the street when he found a familiar mop of white hair. Naruto sighed as he started to check if he was doing something fishy. After all, he was a criminal. When he tapped on his shoulder, he turned around and looked angry, but when he recognized him his anger was replaced with fear. Hey, Naruto. What are you doing here? Larkins asked. Looking for something. What are you doing here? Where are your two friends? Naruto asked him about the two thugs who were with him when he arrived here. Although he was here to interrogate the man about his criminal escapades, he was glad to see he was well. He was one of the first faces he remembered in this world, even if he tried to rob him. I'm working. Since you beat me and told me to get a real what is that? He pushed him lightly and headed for the crowd. Naruto followed him when he saw a crowd in the middle of the street pointing at something. He looked at the tall building, a clock tower. He began to wonder why the crowd was here for. Maybe there was an event today. Gosh, honestly. Please excuse me, I'm very sorry. There, a figure stood, staring out from the open window of the clock tower, dangerously close to its edge. It drew the attention of everyone nearby, and its voice trembled as if bathing in the weight of all that attention. The figure's head was entirely wrapped in bandages, leaving only its dazzling eyes uncovered. Its body was wrapped tightly with a black jacket, and both wrists were captured by a long chain, the ends of which dragged on the ground, swaying both left and right as their owner paced the tower. Who is this woman? Her clothes are almost like his thought were interrupted by the woman. My apologies, I am called Sirius Romani Conti, the witch cult's Archbishop of Wrath. Just now, what did that bastard say? Did you hear it? Larkins asked incredulously, and judging from the noise the crowd made, they couldn't believe it either. Is she for real? Without a word, Naruto adjusted the pair of black gloves he had on as a part of his uniform and took out the simple sword at his side. Some noticed this and began to part the way for him, afraid of the weapon and of its wielder. Ah, I almost forgot. I have someone I wanted to show you. Naruto stopped when Sirius spoke with a friendly voice as she pulled someone through the window. A little boy moaned and writhed in her grasp. He was only about 10 years old, his entire body, from ankles to shoulders, was wrapped with a chain. He was also gagged with that chain, the corners of his mouth dripping blood. Only his neck and above were freed as he desperately moved his head, crying and shouting as much as he could. I'm sorry that you're so scared. However, as a man, crying like this isn't good GAH? Sirius was kicked in the stomach by the blonde man, making her drop to her knees when the air in her lungs escaped. He caught the child and used his sword to cut the chain that held him, his sword glowing with a green aura. The boy cried out in panic when he began to fall to his death, but he was caught by a copy of the blonde. The clone held the boy in his arms, not letting him go until they landed on the ground safely. He broke the chain that covered his mouth so he could speak. He looked at the boy, who finally spoke to him. Please save my friend Tina. The boy cried, eyes watering and lips quivering. Naruto widened his eyes a fraction. The clone dispersed once the child was surrounded by concerned adults to relay the information to his creator. Naruto was running through the clock tower searching for a girl named Tina. He heard a moan upstairs, so he ran toward the bell, the top of the tower. He found the chained young girl. She was crying and trying in vain to free herself. Naruto immediately grabbed the girl's body, cutting a chain with extreme care to not hurt her with his wind. Once the girl was free, she was handed to a clone who began to run on the side of the building toward the crowd. She reunited with the boy and they both hugged while crying. They were both hugged by their parents. He got out of the tower too. He wasn't going to allow any more hostages. Seeing them together, Naruto's vision blurred for a second, but he just shook his head to be rid of it. That was weird. He felt like Kurama was trying to take over his body, but this felt much more weaker. The people in the audience looked wobbly for a second and they began to vomit for some reason, started to spasm as they exhaled, and collapsed in the pool of their own vomits. He held the little boy in his arms and shook him to see if he would wake up, but he didn't. He tried to walk to the boy, but before he could try something else, Sirius suddenly appeared in front of him, holding two gold chains with hooks, forcing him to jump away with the children toward the tower. She swung them down, her sharp hooks flew toward Naruto's body. With a loud bang, the chain smashed the stairs as Naruto dodged by leaping away from her attacks. I should help the children first. Naruto thought as he jumped out of the window and escaped, but Sirius began to chase him. He made 10 copies of himself that took the children to safety, better to be careful than sorry. He tackled the woman to the pavement below to stop her from following the children. She got up and tried to open his stomach while he was on his back, but he caught her hand and sent a devastating high kick towards her head, stunning her. He got up and followed with a devastating combo of palm strikes and finished with a brutal hit on her stomach that sent Sirius's body crashing inside the tower. She tried to get up, but her hands were pinned above her head and impaled by a sword, immobilizing her. Naruto created a Rasengan in his hand to finish her off, but he heard her laugh loudly, making him hesitate. When he looked at her eyes, he was weirded out to see pure desire in her eyes. Why was Sirius laughing? This wasn't good. Wait a minute. Those whiskers. Your unique mana. Darling, is that you? Where have you been? Her high-pitched sonorous voice overflowed with obvious enthusiasm. No matter where I looked, I couldn't find you. Even after I'd torn your spares open, I still couldn't find you anywhere. What? Naruto was confused when she knows him barely. Sirius's mouth twisted into a mad smile. My ideal was reached. Because I want to be one with you, you finally noticed the wish that I'd been praying for. Because my love has finally reached you. She said as she stared at the blonde man. I've always been waiting for only you, my dear Betelgeuse Romani Conti. Hearing her words, Naruto hesitated, his interest was piqued. Dear Betelgeuse? The light that the golden Rasengan emanated was growing dimmer by the second. According to Amelia's story, Juice was in love with Fortuna, Amelia's aunt, or at least it seemed that way. So, for this woman with purple eyes and silver hair, very specific characteristics he could only associate with one another, to be screaming her love for Betelgeuse was worrying to a new degree. Naruto's hand gently grasped the bandages at the side of her head, praying, hoping beyond hope that if he tears them from her head he wouldn't find Amelia's aunt looking at him with loving eyes, that he wouldn't find pointy ears. Please don't be so silent, Betelgeuse. You're such a mean-spirited person. See, you're already giving me that usual cold attitude, it makes me really anxious. Sirius said, her breath was ragged, interpreting his touch in a whole different way. Her voice woke him up from his musings, making him retrieve his hand as if he'd been burnt. I'm sorry. You're mistaking me for someone. Naruto said as he powered up his Rasengan, regardless of who was behind the bandages, they were part of a cult plagued with murderers and psychopaths, she needed to die. Kill her. Kill her. Kill her. Kill her. He heard the mob cheer for him, eagerly awaiting the execution of the psycho woman, calling for vindication. Eyes filled with bloodlust, mouths twisted in snarls, howling for murder. His emotion sensing was going nuts with the amounts of bloodlust each emitted. Matatabi perked up in the seal, she felt something familiar, something she felt from the man with a scythe that captured Yujito. She had a feeling that Naruto killing Sirius would be a bad idea. Couldn't be that, she had no time to think as she shouted at Naruto, who was ready to kill Sirius. Her voice reached Naruto as he stopped his attack and looked at Matatabi in the mindscape. Huh? What is it? Why did you stop me? Don't kill her. Whatever you do, don't kill her. If you kill her, her death will cause everyone else to die instantly. Matatabi said with panic. Naruto widened his eyes in shock as he looked at the mob, they already had injuries on the same spot as Sirius's spot, more than one was holding their hands with pain in their eyes. How? He wondered as he looked back to Sirius, who still wore the same smile. What did you do to them? He demanded. You don't remember, my dear Betelgeuse? That is my authority of wrath. Authority of wrath, whoa. Naruto let out as he dodged the large blade, nearly cutting his head off. He looked and found a beastman, who held a large blade. The beastman continued to attack Naruto, but he grabbed the arm that held his blade and threw a knee kick on his stomach. However, when he did it, the crowd rolled as they grunted in pain. Naruto, while worried, still hit the beastman in the head to knock him out. He was shocked, even if he didn't really mean it, he was harming dozens of innocents. What's going on? How am I supposed to take them down without harming them? He was very familiarized with various authorities, he knew how dangerous they could be. He began to think. Asuma, according to Shikamaru's description, died when Haiden managed to get in his ritualistic circle and injured himself enough for Asuma to die. There was a problem in all that, however, he was immortal or at least incapable of dying of his injuries, and used a ritual. With that information though, he could tell that she had to have a range for her authority, similar to Haydn, who could only kill while in his circle, and she wasn't immortal. If she didn't, she'd be harming herself and threatening all the citizens, not just a crowd. This situation, while bad, wasn't the worst, so he hid. He created a lot of clones to rescue each of the enraged citizens. Well, now it's just a waiting game, Naruto thought. He suddenly got a headache again as he dropped to his knee. Not again. What's this disgust feeling? He tried to stand up, but the damn headache was so annoying. My dear Pedagogos. Sirius said with a smile as she approached the blonde man, reaching for his face with her hands, but he slapped them away from him. She was a little shocked when she watched him stand up. Naruto tilted his head up to Sirius, taking a deep breath as he released a yellow chakra burst, similar to the first Hokage. It directly hit Sirius as she flew over and landed on the ground. It didn't damage her, but it was enough to knock her back and not hurt the crowd. He repeated the same thing again and again until his clones evacuated the civilians. At which point he had enough time to figure out what to do if she didn't have a range. Shikaku, lend me your chakra. Naruto called out the one-tailed beast's name as he opened his palm and created a Rasengan with the beast's cursed seal markings. His azure eyes changed briefly into sun-colored eyes with a pattern of stars in them. Senpu, Jitan Rasengan, Sage Art, Magnet-style Rasengan. He charged closer to Sirius and struck her stomach with his Magnet Rasengan. The markings quickly spread across her body. His Magnet Rasengan had immobilized Sirius so that she wouldn't escape, but if her crowd was still being affected by her magic, he didn't know. You son of a bitch. I'm surprised you remembered that move I gave you for Madara. Shuhaku grinned. Damn, this bitch really wants you. I really don't want to talk about it, but why does she think I'm Betelgeuse? Naruto was confused why Sirius called him Betelgeuse. Since Sirius was sealed, he could use a clone to take to prison, and Reinhard knows what to do with her. He summoned a clone and told it to take Sirius to the authorities. He had to explain to the guards all about Sirius's authority and how to counter it. Now that that was done for, he needed to head back for Emilia. Fuck me, how could I be so careless? Naruto said worriedly as he suddenly vanished into a yellow flash and ran after for Emilia. Why did he leave her in the first place, knowing she had a stalker several times stronger than her? Naruto was running from rooftop to rooftop, his face was one of concentration and the orange pigmentation around his eyes signaled the use of Sennin mode. He arrived at his destination, a rooftop overlooking the park where he carelessly left Emilia. It didn't take long for him to spot her in the arms of a familiar white-haired male, Regulus. He was surrounded by craters and ice spikes, signaling a battle that the girls didn't win. We meet again. As promised, I'm here to take her as my 79th wife. Regulus smiled cockily. You sick fuck. What did you do to my friends? Naruto demanded angrily, powering up a Rasengan on his hand. His technique began to turn a hateful vermilion when he saw Regulus exploring Emilia's body. His eyes, previously orange, began to turn a darker shade with cross-shaped pupils. If you touch her, I'll rip the light from your eyes. You mean the maid and the little girl? They're fine, I don't want my bride to be lonely. He said. I think that if my bride finds one of her attendants gone, she'll be lonely, and if I don't invite enough people, she'll be rather fickle. So I won't kill you, be grateful. If you insist on going through this, then I'm going to kill you right now. Naruto yelled as he started to charge him. However, Regulus gave a confident smile, confident in something that made him hesitate for a second. He tapped the ground gently with his toes, confusing him. Although it was a gesture of comfort, as if adjusting his shoes, his foot dug neatly into the stone slab as if it were a shovel driving into soft ground. The wreckage of the slate flew toward Naruto. Bullets of soil that seemed to defy gravity. Some of them brushed the outside of Naruto's right foot, tracing red, bloody gashes across his skin. The next moment, his foot vanished. On his right foot, the white bone, pink flesh, and yellow marrow were cleanly exposed in a twisted cross-section. His veins had all been severed, blossoming with blood. What was that? Chome asked as he saw Naruto's right foot suddenly get hit. How? I don't know, but that guy is troublesome. Naruto, you have to use Bija mode now. Kurama yelled. Naruto gritted his teeth in pain. He was unable to support his own weight, he tumbled to the ground. The wound was large, but he wasn't too worried about it as his wound started to heal up, stopping the bleeding. Oh wow. Regulus was amazed at Naruto's healing factor. I'm very impressed that you can heal in so little time, but can you actually beat me? We won't know. Naruto's body disappeared behind the golden flames of his Bija mode. Till we try dash he dropped his transformation when he felt his right arm and his left leg vanish, much like his foot, his ribs cracked when another bullet hit his unprotected body. Regulus sighed and his eyes closed, he shook his head in disappointment. I told you nicely, but you still want to keep going. He said, watching Naruto fall off the rooftop. He sighed, this time in relief, the amount of mana that transformation released was titanic, it made him attack in panic, hoping to distract him from it with pain, and it worked, thankfully. Whatever that was dangerous, he didn't want to see it again. Naruto tried to move again, he was in a lot of pain, the sensation of losing his arm and his feet was driving him over the edge, he could only see Regulus back as he hurried off. He had to ask himself, how? That attack wasn't nearly as fast, so why did it hit him? Was all this peace making him weaker? All these questions and more were playing in his mind while his sight faded. He heard a voice, but he couldn't be bothered. Naruto-kun. OVA 4. Naruto, what's wrong with him? Emilia asked as she pointed her finger at Kazuma, who had his face buried on the desk. Aqua bumped on us, and Kazuma screamed and cried when his photographing brick hit the floor and broke. He said, trying to explain technology beyond his understanding, making Emilia interested too, having never heard of such invention either. Kazuma, who sat on his seat, cried for not taking a picture with his idol Naruto, and the fact that his phone broke was even worse. It was because of that useless goddess, Aqua. All he wanted was to take a picture with Naruto and show it to his friends in his homeworld if he got out of this stupid school and that horrible fantasy world. The slide door was opened as Tanya walked inside the classroom toward Ains, who sat on his seat without a care in the world. We need to talk. Tanya said. Huh? She wants to talk to me? Ains thought. When classes are over, come to the park near the school. I'm more than willing to talk here. No, I want to talk in private. Lightning struck Albedo's mind as she was immediately jealous and her aura leaked out, releasing her demonic aura. You want to talk to Ains-sama, my Ains-sama, in private? She asked, her voice betrayed how much she was holding back from destroying the little girl. Calm down, Albedo. Ains tried to calm her down, but she wouldn't listen, her dark intentions had already attracted the attention of the one person he had to get off his back. Impossible. If this girl wants to seduce you, I'll slap her silly. Squash her flat. Pulverize her. She said. Albedo, you're talking to a child. He said, desperate to calm her. Age, gender, and race don't matter. Your charm goes far beyond those things. Albedo said with conviction that destroyed his soul just a little more. But we've only just met. Ains said, not sure if Albedo was programmed to understand how much time was needed to form a relationship, although he doubted that even Tabula had that much foresight. It doesn't matter how long you've known someone. Finally, Rem stood up and caught Albedo's attention as she looked at her. When you're falling in love, it doesn't matter how long you've known someone. She spoke again, her tone fierce. Albedo growled just a second when she suddenly dashed toward Rem and grabbed her hands. You get it. She said with a smile, forgetting all her jealousy. That's right. I'd barely known Naruto-kun for any length of time at all. Rem said, making Naruto fall out of his chair as if slapped. I don't know who Naruto is. Albedo said with no change in her mood. Rem nodded with her same smile. This is Naruto-kun. He's very important to me. She replied with a hand gesture to show Albedo who Naruto was. As Rem and Albedo were talking, Albedo's eyes widened in shock when she realized that she was distracted as she turned and didn't see Ains in the classroom. She ran after Ains, but Eric came in and blocked her way. Move! Albedo growled at him, releasing her ominous aura to threaten him. But that didn't work on him. Class is about to start. Eric said calmly. Ains-sama. Later. Ains-sama. Albedo cried as she ran after Ains and left the classroom when the bell rang. Have fun. Shaltir and Aura said at the same time. Eric blinked his eyes at Albedo, but his attention turned to Visha, who stood up from her seat. Sorry. I'm going too. She said as she ran and left the classroom. The other classmates stayed behind on their desks, listening to Eric and what he had to say except the two blondes. The two sleepers were Naruto and Garfield, who couldn't remain conscious once he started talking. Ram had a newspaper rolled in her hand and hit right on top of Garfield's head. Wake up, she said calmly as the blonde boy stood up instantly and glared at her. Hey! What the food dash his face got smacked by Ram with a newspaper again as his head hit his desk and he instantly sat. Oh okay. I am awake now. Ram gave a smug smile to him while nodding, however, it is now Naruto's turn to get hit. She was prepared as she rolled the newspaper into a stick much more tighter than the previous one. She aimed for Naruto's head, but was interrupted by Emilia and Ram. Of course, they wouldn't like her to give him a cruel treatment. Emilia and Ram were too soft with him. Emilia sighed with a small smile on her face as she stood up and moved closer to Naruto, shaking his body to wake him up gently. Naruto, wake up, class is over, she said softly as her voice reached for his mind, and his eyes opened as he wiped the drool on his mouth. It's over? He asked as Emilia nodded to him. Tomorrow, after morning classes, we'll be having that talent show. It hasn't been decided yet who'll be performing, so everyone, make sure you're ready. Eric said. Sir, why are we having a talent show? Cositus asked as he raised his hand. Because Mr. Roswell said, wouldn't it be fun? Eric imitated Roswell's voice. Naruto and Garfield's eyes narrowed in annoyance when Eric did that Roswell singing voice. Even Beatrice is annoyed with Roswell's singing voice. The three of them spat at the floor at the same time. Hey, Kazuma. I'm sorry about your phone. Aqua apologized to Kazuma, who was giving her the silent treatment. Kazuma turned to Aqua, giving her a blank expression. He spat at Aqua's feet. Now he had to get a low-paying job to replace that phone thanks to this thing that was supposed to generate income, not decrease it. Naturally, Aqua took offense to this and cried all over Darkness Armor, making the knight try to pry her off with no result. Hey, Kazuma. Kazuma instantly beamed as he looked up at Naruto, who called his name. It was the first time he called his name. My friends and I are planning to eat ramen at the restaurant. Wanna go with us? Naruto asked. Naruto blinked when Kazuma was beside him in an instant. Why yes, Naruto-senpai. But, give me a second, he said as he dashed back to Aqua. Can you take out your wallet? Aqua blinked her eyes in confusion, but she took out a wallet. Yes. Why did he? She yelled at Kazuma as he took her wallet, ran back to Naruto, and they all ran away from her. They left the shocked Aqua as she stood in the hallway while looking at the door. Then, Eric came behind her and hit her head with a ruler as she looked at him. Go home or else dash. I'm going. So, you like coffee? Ains asked as he sat on the bench with Tanya. It came as quite a surprise when he found out that the military girl was actually a man from Japan. Yeah, back in Japan Tanya said before Visha came into the park and interrupted them. The blonde turned to Visha. Oh, you're here. What is it? Yes, ma'am. Visha said as she saluted her leader. School is over for the day, so I came to get you. The croquettes at the butcher on the corner are about to go on sale. Tanya smiled. I don't know who brought us to this world, but there's one thing, she said as she stood up and looked at Ains. One thing? He asked. The food here's great. Later, Ains' old gown. She gave him a farewell as she and Visha headed off first before him. Ains sighed when Tanya left. Honestly, he was glad that he met her or him, that was confusing. Oh, Naruto. There is Ains. This can't be. Ains turned around to see the half-elf and a familiar spiky blonde man. They also brought friends with them. You must be Ains. Naruto said with a strained smile. This skeleton was constantly releasing an ominous aura. And Naruto Uzumaki. I have to calm down. Ains thought as he coughed on his fist and greeted him as a Lord Ains. Naruto Uzumaki. I heard your name yesterday. It's nice to meet you, but why are you here? Well, I was wondering if you could join us to eat ramen together. I always like to make friends while eating some delicious ramen. Naruto said. Thank you for your offering, but I'm not hungry. He said. Oh, I see. Suit yourself. See you later. I would love to eat with him but... Ains thought as he looked up at the sky. I can't eat because I'm an undead. There was a loud, shrill shout when Albedo was looking at Ains behind the tree. It made him sigh in relief. He wasn't supposed to grow tired since he was an undead, but the NPCs really made his life interesting, to say the least. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kayashin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my P at Trian. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Ben Phillips. If you liked the content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'll stay here until next time.